Je me souviens, ce matin-là, le ciel était dégagé. Le 11 septembre 2001, en cette belle journée de fin d'été, l'attentat le plus meurtrier de l'histoire allait bientôt marquer New York et l'Amérique au fer rouge. À cette époque, j'étais professeur d'histoire-géographie à New York. J'habitais Manhattan, quelques rues au sud de Central Park. Je ne travaillais pas le mardi matin. Après plusieurs allers et retours entre ma télévision et le toit plat de mon immeuble, d'où je pouvais voir partiellement les tours, j'allais assister à l'ineffable, l'indicible, l'incroyable. En une poignée de secondes, la tour sud s'effondra sous mes yeux, disparue. Il était 9h59. La tour nord allait connaître le même sort à peine 30 minutes plus tard. Rien qu'à New York, 2753 personnes décéderont ce jour-là et l'on comptera plus de 6000 blessés. Je n'ai été qu'un témoin lointain de ces attentats, mais ils m'ont profondément marqué au point de vouloir changer de métier, de changer de vie. Quelques mois plus tard, j'allais reprendre des études en France et devenir journaliste. 20 ans après, j'ai voulu savoir ce que le 11 septembre a changé chez ceux qui, eux, étaient sur les lieux mêmes de la tragédie. Pour beaucoup, l'épreuve qu'ils ont subie fut immortalisée par des photographes qui prirent tous les risques ce jour-là. Des photos chocs, des photos pour l'histoire, des photos pour ne pas oublier. Après des mois d'enquête, j'ai retrouvé quelques-uns de ces anonymes passés à la postérité sur papier glacé. Policiers, employés des tours, pompiers, secouristes, photographes, toutes et tous sont des survivants, des miraculés. Ce film est leur histoire, l'histoire d'un traumatisme qui a modifié leur vie et celle de milliers d'Américains, mais aussi redessiné le destin des États-Unis et du monde, jusqu'à aujourd'hui. Mars 2021, dans le froid sec de cette fin d'hiver new-yorkais, les visiteurs du mémorial du 11 septembre recommencent à affluer.
So there was an engine 40, a lot of 35s coming down over here. That's Roberts, Mercado, Chauffeur. Then you got down the roads a little bit, you got Michael Dioria. Oh, Giberson. Yeah, tall guy. You didn't want to say good morning to him early in the morning. He needed to have his coffee and hang out on the apparatus floor. And there's a lieutenant. And then Morello. All very good guys. I don't know if there was any bad guy in the firehouse.
My name is Kevin Shea. I'm a retired New York City firefighter responding on 9/11 at the South Tower of the World Trade Center where it collapsed.
Ce jour-là, Kevin a failli perdre la vie. Sur les 13 pompiers de sa brigade, il est le seul à avoir survécu.
When the plane hit, fuel that was on fire dropped down onto the cars, igniting them. And once you start a car on fire, it's difficult to put it out. So when we were down there, one of the guys that was on the line with us, meaning they were all holding the hose, he went out to see if there was more work for us. So we held the line while he wanted to see if there was more work. He went into the South Tower to see if there was more work. When he came out, the building was collapsing. I didn't know, I'm wearing my SCBA or my mask, and I'm operating. He screamed for us to run.
Courir pour sauver sa vie, la dernière image dont Kevin se souvienne.
So at that time, you didn't know anything about the rest of the battalion?
No. All I knew was that my guys died. I knew that the day I woke up, which was two days later. I was conscious. I didn't even know the buildings came down. The doctors had told me that my retrograde amnesia was caused by my body shutting down to protect me. That the trauma of the building coming down, the trauma of the injuries that have occurred, the trauma of losses of my brothers was too grand from my mind circuitry to handle it all well. So it preferred to let it stay in the short term and get wiped away clean, like RAM on a computer when you turn it off.
Cette perte de mémoire fut presque salvatrice pour Kevin. La plupart des autres victimes du 11 septembre ont-elles conservé des souvenirs bien précis de l'attaque, des souvenirs douloureux encore aujourd'hui.
My name is Joanne Capestro, and I'm a survivor from the 87th floor of the North Tower. I'm standing by my desk with a lighter and a cigarette, and all of a sudden, the plane hits. Boom. We didn't know. We really didn't know what it was. The impact was so strong.
Un impact à seulement 5 étages au-dessus du bureau de Joanne.
The building went like this way, this way, this way. I saw my life in front of me. Then it went this way. Then it went this way. Then it went this way. And then it just stopped.
When a plane hit, I was writing something at my desk. It was an impact. I describe it as like a Mack truck just slamming into something. My name is Peter Bitwinski. I was an employee of the Port Authority of New York, working in One World Trade Center, 69th floor, on the morning of September 11th of 2001. And it startled me. After it threw me onto my desk, I get up, and I remember when I got up, the sound of crunching steel. I just always remember that sound of the steel in my ears. And when I got up, the floor was rolling. It wasn't stable. It felt like everything would just crash down, and I would go flying down. And all this is happening in seconds. But just the one thing I do remember is sort of whispering to myself, is this where it all ends for me? Is this where I die?
We all got on our hands and our knees, and we were going to exit our office, and boom, the second building got hit, but we felt it. The building started to rock. I was like, what the fuck? You know, are we ever gonna get out of here?
À l'extérieur, c'est la stupéfaction. Comme tous les New-Yorkais, je n'ai aucune idée à ce moment que les tours vont s'effondrer, et encore moins de ce que cet attentat aura comme conséquence au niveau international.
So we started looking at the building, and I started counting the windows. And I realized, because I knowing how big those windows are being in the building, oh, that's a big plane. That's not just a little plane. And I said to myself, man, that's something big.
My name is Dominic Guadagnoli. On September 11th, 2001, I was working in Manhattan as a deputy U.S. Marshal.
Everybody was on scene trying to help out, trying to do something. You know, pieces are falling from the building. So every once in a while, you'd stop and, you know, kind of wait to see it fall and whatever. And you saw all kinds of people. I mean, they would come down, or you'd go up to them and they were just kind of like lost, you know, shock. So you'd get them, walk them across the street, try to help them, tell them, you know, sit there, sit down for a second.
All you smelled was jet fuel, I have to tell you. I felt like if somebody was scared, they would just light a cigarette. Or if they were in the dark somewhere and they didn't know where they were, they would light a match just to see where they were. I was really afraid that the building was going to explode from the jet fuel. And what was really sad was, like, one floor would have fire and smoke. Another floor, you could hear a pin drop. Another floor, you would see, you hear music playing. Another floor, you would see blood. What really bothered me the most is there was this one floor There were people in wheelchairs. I said, how are these people going to get down?
Parmi ces personnes handicapées, au moins une sortira vivante de l'attaque. John Abruzzo, tétraplégique, sauvé par son collègue et ami Peter.
When I brought the chair, everyone contributed in terms of opening the chair. We unstrapped John from his wheelchair. We lifted him into the evac chair, strapped him in there. And then we kind of developed this quick system. 2 people at the top of the chair, 2 at the bottom to guide it. When we went down the staircase, we were rotating bottom to top. Top goes off. This was every 5 floors.
And how long did it take to go down?
It took us approximately an hour and a half because we were stopped along the way. Plus, we were slower than the average people going down the staircase.
À l'extérieur, les secours aident les rescapés qui sortent des tours les uns après les autres. Certains sont sérieusement blessés, comme Donna, une jeune employée de la tour sud.
So we got Donna and put her in an ambulance, and we were just packing ambulances. They were just, how many you could put in there that would be safe enough to put in there. And so I remember closing the door and thinking, okay, next. And there she goes. And helped a few more people. And then there was that sound where everybody heard that first sound. You look and you could hear it crack, and you look, and everyone kind of just froze for a second.
And I start seeing the building coming down. And I'm just, I'm stupid. I carry on shooting.
My name is Phil Penman. I'm a professional photographer, and I rushed down to the World Trade Center the morning of September 11th.
Because it's like you're in another world. You're looking through the viewfinder. And it's not for like a few seconds of shooting that my brain starts realizing, well, hang on a minute, these things are coming in closer and closer and closer in my frame. How close are they going to come? Like, is it going to come over the church and get me? So all of a sudden, like, these firemen run past and they kind of grab me and say, run, kid.
Il est 9h59. En 9 secondes à peine, la tour sud s'est effondrée. 110 étages volatilisés. Malgré le chaos, malgré le choc absolu, les photographes continuent de faire leur métier sous la menace de la tour nord, encore debout.
My name is Aristide Konomopoulos. I'm a photojournalist, and on 9/11, I was across the North Tower when it fell at the intersection of Church and Day Streets. I look up and I see just the top starting to splinter, just explode. And I just turned and I just started running as fast as I could. And just pure adrenaline just pumping in me, just sprinting. And with that, I'm running and I see a little distance away a photographer. I get by him, and this photographer, Joe Tabacca, and we dive by this bus. And the tower falls and takes a lot of the debris, and that bus saved our lives.
En moins de 2 heures de temps, les tours jumelles, symboles de la toute-puissance économique des États-Unis, ne sont plus, comme pulvérisées. L'Amérique est touchée au cœur. En Occident, nous sommes tous sous le choc. Le 11 septembre marque la fin d'un monde, la fin des certitudes. Les Américains vivent dans la peur, dans un pays qui n'est désormais plus un sanctuaire. Les survivants, eux, développent une paranoïa de tous les instants.
My name is Kayla Bergeron. I worked for the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey. I was on the 68th floor of the North Tower when the commercial airliner hit the building. To be honest, on September 12th, when I was still living in Manhattan at the time, I got into a cab and said midnight, and one of the drivers was Middle Eastern, and that fear kind of overtook me.
From a personal, like comparing it to 9/11, you woke up and you could smell the death. You know, you could walk and you could see it. You could see it in the air, you could smell it. It definitely took a toll on me.
When I was going through post-traumatic stress disorder, I didn't want to leave the house. I was afraid. I lived on a busy street, so I would jump when I would feel anything. I used to hide in the closet in my apartment. I couldn't walk like the first, I would say, 50 days. My legs were like locked up. Always watching my back, always on the lookout. I just make sure I try and keep people safe when I'm at work. You know, if this is what I'm the fire, deputy fire, whatever you want to call me on my floor, I just got to make sure I bring everybody out because I'm not leaving anybody behind after what I went through.
I lost a lot of people. It brought me to a state in my emotional mind where I had something called survivor's guilt. I felt there were guys on the job that had 30 years of experience that had a lot more to offer than this little peon of two and a half, approaching 3 years on the job. So when they lost their lives, I thought it was unfair. Me, I felt the blame, in a way, was me. So I don't know why I had to be spared in this particular situation. So over time of witnessing the horror, seeing the families and suffering, seeing their eyes, looking at me going, in my head saying, well, why is he alive and my husband's dead? Why is he alive and, you know, and my son is dead? It became painful. And I actually started to get a little bit further apart from them because the pain of trying to explain to each of them, I'm feeling the same pain as you are because I'm alive, you know? And I couldn't give them an answer. The truth is I do not know.
Yeah, for me, it was loud noises. We spoke about that. Jets above me. I mean, if I saw a jet, I would watch it the whole time until I see where it went. I didn't want to not know where it was going. Did not, by the time, right? I didn't want to know where it wasn't going. And then fire engines. I mean, if I heard a fire engine, a siren, I would just literally freeze. I would just stop short because that was all around us. There's been moments. I don't remember what happened. I was actually in the shower and my girlfriend was at my house. And I just started breaking down. I don't know what happened. I can't remember now why it happened.
Out of the blue?
Yeah, out of the blue. We were talking about something. Maybe this, I don't remember. I just know that all of a sudden, I was a mess. I don't know what. Something triggered it. And it wasn't like she did anything. We were talking about something. Maybe a trip to New York City. We talked about that several times. Going to see family, go back to New York. There was something. And I didn't think it would get to me like that. I was like that for the longest time. I mean, I'm still a little, sometimes I lock my doors probably when I shouldn't. I'm a little paranoid. But, you know, I go to the shower, I have my guns right outside the shower. I mean, not all the time. There's just certain days where it picks up again. It just, you know, it amps up, you know.
I had trauma when I was a kid. I was abused. But I kind of put that in a box. That was something not to talk about. So when 9/11 happened, that came to the surface along with the terrorist attacks. That's complex PTSD. The fight or flight response. That's the type of mode I was in. But yeah, all those years I was busy. I don't think it was intentionally, although it was a distraction. I have friends, we've all been asked, why didn't you get help sooner? We said there was no freaking time. We were busy.
Se réfugier dans le travail pour oublier le traumatisme ou pour l'affronter, Kevin le pompier aurait aimé pouvoir le faire.
I started calling in the fire department to ask them if you're gonna bring me on for light duty, why not you consider me for full duty? Because I feel like I'll be capable of doing that. And they just put me off for about a year. In fact, I talked to Dr. Kelly. She was the one that actually was at the site that helped rescue me. So I went to her and she said, let's give it a year. And I said, okay. So I was really hopeful. But at the end of that light duty, I was asking for it, and they said, no, you'll never go on full duty. Yeah. And that was Dr. Kelly that she said that to me. And she said it, there was a reason. There was another guy that had injuries, serious injuries before 9/11. And she was left with a conflict for her to make a decision if to let him on or not. And she chose to let him on. And then he died on 9/11. And so she said, since then, it's really hard for me to ever decide to bring anyone back on after that. I really loved the job, so that hurt. I was given the choice to stay on light duty, though, which was nice. And then someone came along and says, but you can retire now. And I didn't want to leave. It was my brother Brian that convinced me to leave. Yeah.
It took 17 years to get a diagnosis. I mean, I knew something was wrong. I thought maybe because I had been displaced with the job, but I had a hard time just sitting in the chair, driving in the car for long periods of time. My mind was racing at such a speed, it was hard to deal with. And what I've learned is alcohol fuels PTSD, and PTSD fuels alcohol.
I hit the alcohol hard. Like I had yellow skin, and I was about 60 pounds heavier. And people used to call me Yellow Man, and I didn't know why they called me Yellow Man, and apparently it was from the alcohol.
How many years did you go down that deep?
Oh, quite a while. Yeah, I was drinking close to a bottle of Jack Daniels a night. And then I was like, shit, you got a problem. You know?
That's why you quit?
Well, that was one of them. And then I actually went to a doctor, and they were like, yeah, you're not supposed to be yellow. That's not a good sign.
Le stress post-traumatique qu'ont subi et subissent encore parfois les survivants du 11 septembre fut alimenté par la couverture médiatique quasi exclusive de l'événement pendant des semaines.
My name is Srinath Jinadasa. I was a structural engineer for the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey and was on the 74th floor of the World Trade Center North Tower when the plane hit.
Depuis 4 ans, Srinath habite à Jacksonville, en Floride. Le cliché qui témoigne de ce qu'il a vécu il y a 20 ans fut un de ceux les plus utilisés dans les médias.
This picture has gone all over the world, and they keep printing this picture over and over again. Joe Kelly passed away. George, I'm not in touch with him. Yeah.
You look like a walking dead, if I may say.
Yeah, so I suppose, for a journalist, maybe that's what comes to mind. Although I didn't feel like I was dead at the time. Somebody looking at it might think, oh my gosh, these people are coming out of like a cemetery or something, right? you could, I can understand how somebody might think like that. Yeah.
I think what also stands out is that he looked casual.
Yeah.
He still wears his case and
right.
Like nothing happened.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So
if something happened to me, I wouldn't think of taking my purse or my case.
Yeah. So, what you don't know is what's in my pockets. I had a pair of binoculars, I had a flashlight, and I had wet paper towels, stuff like that.
You were prepared?
Well, as best as I could, because I didn't know. Especially because after 93, there was smoke and all that. So and then the lights went out and so forth. So that's why I had the flashlight. I didn't visit the site until they cleared the place.
So for how long?
That would have been several months. I didn't go there.
Why?
I just didn't feel like, I just couldn't make myself go where, all those people were buried there. Yeah, I can't really explain specifically what it was, but, I just couldn't make myself do it.
It's understandable.
Yeah.
Le photographe qui a immortalisé Srinath et tant d'autres le 11 septembre, c'est Phil Penman. Lui vit toujours à New York.
And then, I ran into J&R Music. Started taking pictures. This was John Paul DeVito. But just very surreal sight, seeing this guy with the suit, and then you've got John Paul next to him like that. So I did a few pictures, and then, once we could see some kind of life, this is what I walked out to. This is Joanne on the left and her friend.
He really, how can I say? He got us at the moment. He got us at that moment in time when I was so scared. And you saw how scared we were. And that's how we were the whole entire time. So when you ask me, how you feel today? I've come a long way. I look at that picture and I was like, that was the worst moment of my life. But you know what? That was the best picture out there. And he made me feel like I have to meet this man. I was so nervous to meet Phil. I was so nervous. And I had my boss, Mark Whaley, come into the conference room, walk in with me to meet Phil. And I was so nervous, I didn't even know what to say to him. I was like, hi. And that moment on, we became really good friends.
À tel point qu'en 2007, à la demande de Joanne, Phil Penman accepte d'être le photographe de son mariage. Quant au cliché initial dans l'enfer du 11 septembre, Joanne ne le regrette pas, bien au contraire.
It was giving me closure. It was the first step to my recovery. And I always talk about my recovery because it wasn't easy.
Se reconstruire ne fut pas non plus facile pour Dominique Guadagnoli. Du 11 septembre, l'ancien marshal a conservé quelques effets personnels.
I mean, I turned his beeper, it still works. Cell phones went down right away. Pagers are still working. Now this pager, which is weird, the company we got these pagers from were in the trade towers. That's where we just go and get our pagers from. This was in the pockets of the jacket and in my shoes. And this is the stuff you see that's all over everybody's faces and all over the jacket and all over me and everybody else.
Quant à la veste qu'il portait ce jour-là,
You never cleaned it.
c'est la première fois qu'il la sort de son dressing.
This, some of those, if you look at some of the darker spots, it's going to be mine or Donna's blood or somebody's. Definitely a strange feeling I haven't in 20 years, yeah.
Mais le souvenir le plus ambigu avec lequel Dominique a dû composer, c'est la photo prise de lui ce jour-là. Un cliché qui illustra lui aussi de très nombreux articles au lendemain du 11 septembre.
It's Alabama. Colorado. Virginia. California.
All of a sudden, you were all over the news. You were everywhere, on every cover.
Yeah, a lot of them, yeah. That time I still didn't even know it was international because I didn't hear about anything from my cousins in Italy yet. So when I started hearing about how big it was, it just was really, it was really weird and difficult to kind of process that. Of course, when I first saw it, I was like, when I first get to it, I was like, that's, I felt this sense of like, it blew me away. You know, my picture, all these people. There's people carrying people all over the place. I don't know what struck her to get my picture. You know, it took a while to accept that a little bit, you know, but once I did and realized, okay, I'm glad those pictures were taken out. Not necessarily mine, but all those other pictures, because it is, again, for future generations, I'm no different than all the NYPD cops there, the firemen there. The real heroes didn't make it out of there. Who went out and they gave up their life and didn't make it out. To me, those were the real heroes.
A hero is what other people call you, but not what you call yourself. John was my friend. He was our friend. My buddies that got together to help. And when you have a friend or a family, wherever, you don't abandon them. And, you know, I couldn't do that. That time was on our side, that fate or God or whatever allowed us to exit, and 15 minutes later our tower come down. I have no idea why that happened and why I'm still here 20 years later to talk about it. I was suffering some PTSD afterwards. Fortunately, my company offered both one-on-one counseling and group counseling, and I accepted it. We used to do these voluntary efforts called Remembrance Through Renewal every September 11th annual period, and one was offered to join the Tribute Museum. And when I joined and I went through their training program, and I realized what I would be doing in terms of tour leading and gallery guiding, it really was something that clicked with me. So I was happy to do that. Everybody has a different story, but we tell it person to person. And that's what we like doing because, you know, you could see photos and you could see objects, but it's different when you're talking to somebody. The major smoke cleared, but then the pile had all the jet fuel and was burning. And I don't know whether you remember, but that pile burned for 6 months. And
I remember the smell.
Remember the smell, yeah.
The week after, the wind shifted towards the north. Those asbestos, those cables,
yeah.
wires.
Imagine the people who went into that pile, and some of them had masks, some had better masks, some took the mask off because it was bothersome. Because the EPA chief in the US said that it was safe. Totally bad and wrong thing to do, and now many of them are suffering. I come away all the time healing and thankful that I came to Tribute that day, and it's part of my ongoing healing.
My family was super supportive. I had some very good friends that were very close who just really, I mean, made us closer, obviously. My coworker, John, we were close, but this is a bond. It's a bond. Him and I have this bond now that no matter what happens, I haven't seen him in probably, I don't know how many years. He's been here once. I've gone back. I just, you know, with life as it is, he's in New York, I'm in Florida. We talk a lot, we text a lot. Usually funny stuff to kind of make each other laugh or tease each other, you know. And like even with Donna, you know, Donna Sparrow, I haven't seen her in years. We text from time to time. We talk every once in a while.
This house that you're in, I focus a lot on it. And that helped me cope with it, because if you have one thing that's causing great stress, best thing is to get a lot of stress is try building a house. And in having children, building a house was one of them. So that's what I decided to do. And it worked for me, because you'll focus on the day-to-day operations. I opted to do it because it made, this was a place it's a shelter, but I wanted it to be this certain way. And it was something I could choose as opposed to like a department telling that you can't go this avenue.
Did you see a shrink, therapist?
No shrink, no therapist. Cycling was my escape. I got into cycling. I have a very addictive nature, so I was either addicted to the alcohol, and then my escape from that was I got addicted to cycling, and that was my escape. I go all over the world, climbing all these mountains and everything on the bike, and got really hooked on that. And then it becomes something else, and it's just a way for the brain to just go away from everything else.
Kayla, elle, a dû attendre 2018 pour trouver enfin dans ce ranch l'apaisement dont elle avait cruellement besoin.
You want a little treat? Fruit.
Tous les week-ends, elle vient ici au nord d'Atlanta, où elle vit désormais, pour des séances d'équithérapie.
He's been through trauma. I think he can sense it with me, and he's so gentle. And I've come to trust him. When I first saw him, you know, the size is a little overwhelming and intimidating. But getting to know him, he's a little bag of love, right? It helps with the bond. First of all, it relaxes them. And after I spend a little time with him, as it benefits to me like this, that's very therapeutic. A lot of the energy just kind of dissipates into the air. Right, big guy?
You can see he likes it.
Oh, yeah, man. It's like going to the salon, full body massage.
When I get people who come for therapy, what I tell them is, are you seeing a therapist? Is my very first thing. Yes, I was like, okay, so don't stop. I don't ask them anything about what's going on, how was your week, you know, tell me what you're feeling. I don't do any of that. There's no reason to. The horse pretty much does it for me. And usually by the end of a therapy session, they'll be talking to me, and that's how it should be.
To people outside, they may not see the benefits. They're like, oh, you're just rubbing the horse. But there's something magical about it, and they do have a sixth sense.
Kayla a vu des psychologues, des thérapeutes divers et variés. Seuls les chevaux l'ont fait sortir de la dépression.
But I've seen Kayla over the last few years make a lot of strides in where she's going and what she's planning for her life and moving on. I just think it takes incredible courage to move on from something like that. She said to me, well, it's gonna be 20 years. It might as well have been 2 days ago. It's still just as dramatic and horrible as it ever was. But now you learn how to handle living with that, I guess.
I was at the peak of my career. The job I absolutely loved. And so I get a little teary-eyed thinking about it because I was at the peak and then I fell. And, you know, the terrorists took it from me, and not just me. And so I wish I had that life back again. And frankly, had I known I'd be going through all of this, if it was like a bus, I would have given somebody else my seat, because this is not, I'm not the person I intended to be. But yeah, I'm kind of disappointed in myself. I'm still working on it. That's why I need therapy for life. But yeah, I'm angry. I'm angry because my life was taken and I can't get it back.
La colère, nombreux furent les Américains à en ressentir après l'effondrement des tours jumelles. De la frustration aussi, et des envies de vengeance chez certains.
I felt like, well, at that time I was, you know, really in bad shape. I was like, go kill them all. You know, I was crazy in my head. But that goes away with time. You know, time does heal all wounds. I don't want to see anybody hurt. But at that point, of course, at the beginning, you know, just go kill them all.
I was just like, whoever did it, well, actually, whoever physically did it, most of them are dead. Whoever's left, yeah, let's find them and bring them up. Hang them up, string them up, do what we got to do. If you know that they did it and you have proof, yeah, sure.
At that time, they were saying that all the Saudis who were here, right, that Bush allowed them to go back to Saudi Arabia, and all the people who were helping these hijackers, they were all allowed to go back, right? They were never prosecuted or arrested or anything. They all, they were allowed to go back.
Selon plusieurs enquêtes journalistiques de fond, le 13 septembre 2001, 140 citoyens saoudiens liés à la famille royale, ou à Ben Laden, furent exfiltrés des États-Unis avec le soutien du FBI.
So now I was conflicted. In fact, there was some pages that were redacted in the 9/11 commission, and there was some 19 pages that were redacted, I believe they said, that talked about how Saudi Arabia was involved in it. And they didn't want it because they didn't want to cause a conflict with Saudi Arabia, because we have a great deal with them with, I guess, oil. That's the common belief is. And I remember saying that's not satisfactory for me, yeah. There were talks that they've found the location, they're locating the perpetrator of this. And his name is Bin Laden, and yes, evidence has shown that he was the mastermind of this. The Bush and the administration were out to get him, and we thought in Afghanistan. So I thought this was going to be a chase, and they're going to go and focus on him. There was, at one point, when I started to get some doubt, was when the transition went to the country of Iraq.
I think I felt that there was a overreaction. And I think that's exactly what the Osama and the terrorists wanted. And then there were people who, found it as a way of, advancing some of their own goals, like going and spreading democracy in the Middle East or whatever, The politicians were trying to wrap the American flag around themselves and, sound like patriots for their own ends.
Après l'Afghanistan, l'administration Bush voulut ouvrir un nouveau front en Irak. Pour justifier cette intervention, Colin Powell, le secrétaire d'État de l'époque, prononça un discours va-t-en-guerre resté célèbre. Devant le Conseil de sécurité de l'ONU, il fit le lien sans aucune preuve entre le régime de Saddam Hussein et les lettres remplies d'anthrax qui créèrent la panique à New York et Washington une semaine seulement après le 11 septembre.
Less than a teaspoonful of dry anthrax in an envelope shut down the United States Senate in the fall of 2001. This forced several hundred people to undergo emergency medical treatment and killed 2 postal workers.
I was always skeptical about politics, right? So it probably reinforced my skepticism and my, cynicism about the whole system.
Une semaine après le discours de Colin Powell, Dominique de Villepin, alors ministre des Affaires étrangères de Jacques Chirac, lui répondit dans une allocution, elle aussi passée à la postérité.
Personne ne peut donc affirmer aujourd'hui que le chemin de la guerre sera plus court que celui des inspections. Personne ne peut affirmer non plus qu'il pourrait déboucher sur un monde plus sûr, plus juste et plus stable. Car la guerre est toujours la sanction d'un échec.
I remember thinking about France not being involved, thinking, well, that's their point, it's their choice. They don't have to be involved. I mean, World War II was a little bit different. It was on their home front. They were involved whether they want to be or not. We were there, we helped out, whatever. This was not their home front.
The veto at the UN, you remember that part?
I don't remember exactly that part, no. So.
And after that refusal, there were a lot of French bashing in the US. Remember that?
Yeah. Somebody was saying no more French fries at McDonald's. Yeah. So now that was some of the politicians, They were saying, oh, France, no French fries. So, I mean, that's how silly these things can become, Enough they didn't invade France.
My fellow citizens, at this hour, American and coalition forces are in the early stages of military operations to disarm Iraq, to free its people, and to defend the world from grave danger. On my orders, coalition forces have begun striking selected targets of military importance to undermine Saddam Hussein's ability to wage war.
Weapons makers and all the other hangers-on, patriots and, flag bearers, all those people, they want to fight. So I think any excuse is good enough for them.
So going to Iraq was not the good solution?
I don't think so. Nothing to do with Osama bin Laden. They fabricated everything.
These weapons of mass destruction, that's a stain on our nation, and that's going to be that way forever. I don't know what was going through the heads of our leaders. I don't know if it was revenge for the Bush boys or not, but you got to question their judgment.
We were fed misinformation. Misinformation is, it be from a government or from media or from anywhere, it can be extremely dangerous. I think perspective makes it a lot easier to question, though, but whenever I think you're using military, I think you should always question those decisions from the beginning.
Should we go out to another third world country that supposedly is tertiary to this? You're telling me we should, they're telling me we shouldn't. I don't know. I'm not in the circles, and no, as they say. I'm probably sure there was truth on both sides of that, and false on both sides of that. So.
Tonight, I can report to the American people and to the world that the United States has conducted an operation that killed Osama bin Laden, the leader of Al-Qaeda, and a terrorist who's responsible for the murder of thousands of innocent men, women, and children.
I was laying in bed 10 years ago and I received a phone call that Osama bin Laden was killed. I was in dead sleep. I got scared. She goes, put on the news. I put on the news. I was like, oh my God, somebody finally got him. And then I was relieved. I was relieved for about a day. And I said, oh my God, they're gonna come and hit us again. So always in the back of my head, I think we're gonna get hit again.
My reaction, I knew many people may not accept, but I was actually sad. I thought that we as Americans would do the right thing of capture them and put them into court, all right? But do I want to kill him for it? No. I want to have him in prison. I want to investigate it. Who knows what other information you could have had to capture more of the people? Who knows? Maybe the Saudi people would have been captured now. You know what I mean? Maybe Saudi would now be held responsible because we got information. Instead, you shot him. So I was saddened by that. Also, I'm more of a pacifist. I don't really think that violence is really going to beget anything more than more violence in the future.
Did it stop everything? No, because then we had ISIS. And then that went on, all the beheadings and everything. So nothing really stopped. It just, another one takes over. I don't see that his death really changed too much.
La mort de Ben Laden a malgré tout réunifié le pays pendant quelques heures. Un goût d'union sacrée retrouvé, comme celle dont firent preuve les Américains après le 11 septembre.
Days after, and for the first year or so, the patriotism in this country just went through the roof. I mean, there was no black, white, blue, green, yellow. There wasn't. There was no bad guy, good guy. Cops were getting along with the bad. I mean, everyone was just like, we are one body. Let's be one body. And I'm like, if we could have kept that. It was such a great feeling to be in a country where everybody just got along. Didn't matter. Really didn't matter. I mean, I'm glad I lived through that because a lot of people haven't. My kids don't know that really. My parents saw a little bit of it, you know, but people who died right before that never got to know that this country had some peace for a while, at least in New York City. I mean, I didn't live everywhere, but I mean, New York City, which is a very, you know, the melting pot, was very cohesive. I felt that way anyway.
When you look at the big picture right now, and even with the election, right now our country is so divided that it's unheard of. I mean,
I think the Iraq, I think that had something to do with it. And while we were unified, here we go again, business as usual. And I think with the leadership we had in Washington recently, that was very divisive. If anything, we're more divided now. I don't see any unifying force because you're either Democrat or Republican. It's not about getting the people's business done anymore.
Not just politically, though, but just also socially, we've become more polarized, and I think that's really dangerous. We teach math and science and all these other things in school. I think it'd be great if we taught empathy and compassion. When we stop seeing people as humans and just as a political party or a nationality or religion, that's how another 9/11 happens.
When Donald Trump was our president, I felt so safe. Maybe people might think of me, well, what does she mean by that? Because, you know, Donald Trump, I like Trump, and the other countries knew if they came after us, they were afraid of him because he'll just push a button and blow them all away. Now, all I'm hearing is terrorism in Israel, terrorism here. We're getting threats again. Come on. One more time, this happens to me. Bye-bye, New York.
Do you think 9/11 changed the American society, and how?
It's still going on. I mean, it's changed. I mean, that World Trade Center coming down, right, that image is something that's kind of seared into people, you know. So somehow there is some fascination about it. I mean, even now it's 20 years and we are talking about it, about 9/11. So there is something, right, that maybe because it promoted so many other things, like why is America still in Afghanistan after 20 years? It's because of 9/11. Why is it a mess in Iraq? It's 9/11, right? What about Syria? Probably has something to do with 9/11. Libya, something to do with 9/11.
You link all those events to 9/11?
I think so, yeah. I think you have to, because that's what started this business. So I hope the FBI won't come after me for whatever, or the CIA or whoever.
En rencontrant ces survivants du 11 septembre, j'ai été impressionné par leur bienveillance, leur courage, leur résilience. Si la réaction de l'administration Bush aux attaques de 2001 fut très contestable, voire condamnable, eux se sont concentrés sur leur reconstruction. Profondément meurtris, blessés, New York aussi a su se relever. En 20 ans, la ville que j'ai connue a bien changé. De nombreux immeubles neufs y ont poussé, toujours plus haut, comme des points levés, comme un défi à la haine et à l'incompréhension.